Well, 'tis the season to make lists. It is the season, isn't it? Where everyone asks, you have a list, you have a Christmas list. I remember my parents used to ask me all the time when I was a kid, hey, do you have a wish list for Christmas? Now, I should prepare you now because we're about to talk about our wish list for the GOP for 2025. Very similar to my house. If I came up with a list of 5 things I wanted for Christmas as a child, I'm going to get 1, maybe 2 if it's a good year. My parents are certainly not going to look at my list of things and say, yeah, let's just buy all those. That's not how it works. And so before we go into my wish list, the guest wish list, we have great guests, great night for you here. Let's talk about what is realistic really quickly, briefly here. We are dealing with a monumental task at hand. The task at hand is we have this humongous government. It has taken decades and decades and decades for the government to get this big and this corrupt through decades of neglect by the American people. Remember, this is all our fault. Decades of, well, I'm not getting involved in the primary. You guys catch the game? Decades of that kind of thinking has given us a large, corrupt criminal organization that presides over the United States of America. That means, it doesn't mean we can't do great things, we can, but it also means you, me, we have to be realistic about what can be done, what can't be done, and more specifically, what will be done and what won't be done. So what's on my list? First, immigration, deportation, these things. You've got guys, Donald Trump made him the guy in charge of deportation and immigration, Tom Homan, all over television saying all the right things.
So you were pretty much the first person Trump chose after he got elected. I think it was the end of that week, right?
Yeah, I believe I was.
Can you summarize in one sentence what you plan to do with the job?
Well, look, we had a discussion that night, and he gave me 3 rails, so 3 things he wants me to do. Number 1 is secure the border.
Yeah.
Shut the border down. Number 2, run the biggest deportation operation this country's ever seen. And third, he wants me to lead an effort to find the over 300,000 missing children that were trafficked into this country.
Okay, that sounds awesome. And that's a good start. Let's be clear about that. Securing the border is something they can do, but even that will have roadblocks. Remember, the Biden administration, as we speak, they're auctioning off the border wall material, trying to make it so we can't even build a wall, so that we can do it. It'll be slower and more difficult than you think. Deporting the criminals. Now, this should be fairly easy, right? It's not difficult to find out where the criminals are. We actually know where almost all of them are, especially local law enforcement. People are aware of the problem. So it sounds very, very simple. Sounds simple to you, sounds simple to me. Well, it's not as simple when you consider this, and we're going to keep coming back to this over and over and over again on the show tonight. There exists in this country, as part of that large, corrupt criminal network, a lot of people in positions of power who view their only job as stopping anyone who's going to try to change things. Remember, it's a criminal enterprise. What is the one thing criminal enterprises all do, a mafia family? They protect themselves. The communists in this country and the low-T GOP, like James Lankford, they have dedicated themselves for decades to bringing in all the third world filth they possibly can into this country. They want them here. They want the crime. They do want the crime. Remember, it helps them gain power. They want the rape. They want the murder. They want the drugs. They want the cheap labor. They want people who will eventually become voters, or at least their children will be, who have no loyalty to the United States of America whatsoever. Because if you're a politician who doesn't like the country, these patriotic citizens like you, they're a problem. So they just replaced you with 10 people from Guatemala. Then they don't have to worry about you at all. There is a huge network of people dedicated to keeping in the millions and millions and millions of people the communists have brought into this country. If you think they're just going to step aside and let Tom Homan and ICE come on in and round up criminals by the million, well, I'd say you're probably going to be disappointed. But we can begin. We can begin securing the border. We can begin deporting the criminals. We can begin finding some of those 300,000 missing children. And I'm not going to spend long on them. And it's not because I don't want to, or not because they don't matter. They matter so much. It's because that tale was a very, very, very sad one. Many of those children are gone to the darkness forever, and it's awful. And remember, Democrats did that on purpose. Okay, but that's our wish list. Secure the border and deport the criminals. However, those 3 steps are a good start. That's the basics. That shouldn't even be a Republican versus Democrat thing. That's a basic national thing. Securing the border should be both parties. Deporting criminals should be both parties. Finding missing children should be both parties. Of course it's not, but that's how it should be. That's a good start. We have 30, 40, pick your number, no one knows, million people here illegally. They're all criminals too. Gather every one of them up, men, women, and children, young and old, and ship them back from whence they came. And then we can begin dealing with the people who got here legally en masse, because remember, the government has spent years passing bill after bill of regulation after regulation, bringing in people legally who shouldn't be here either. Ship them off as well. That's step 1. Step 2, let's talk about cutting spending. It has to happen. On a long enough timeline, if they continue to collapse the dollar, then what does the rest of this matter? If we don't have any kind of buying power, then we don't really have anything, because the country will cease to provide for us any ability to get a standard of living of any kind. And the federal government spending $2 trillion a year more than it takes in makes a disaster inevitable. Let's start getting some things cut. Now, I know you're probably about pulling your hair out so it looks like mine about the continuing resolution and all this other craziness we've seen in Congress. Look, that's just evidence of what I've been saying. They have spent decades, this corrupt criminal organization, making change difficult and in some ways impossible. Listen to this guy.
The power of impoundment has been a presidential authority literally for the first 2 centuries, 200 years of our country. And then in 1974, Congress passed the Impoundment Control Act, which seriously limited the president's ability to cut spending. Or, I mean, think of it like this, Maria. If Congress appropriates $10 million for a specific program, and then the president can accomplish that program with $7 million and save $3 million of it, save 30%, shouldn't he have the authority to do that?
That is one of a million things I could have laid out for you about what this Congress has done, what this judge has done. Remember, the corrupt criminal organization, its only goal is to protect itself, protect the mafia family, protect the criminal organization. And so they're always slipping this into this and slipping this rule into that. And let's slip this one into the continuing resolution. Let's make sure we sign a deal so we can't fire government employees. Yes, I want Elon Musk and Vivek and these guys to go in there and slash and burn the federal budget to try to save the United States of America. If you think they're going to go in and cut $2 trillion in spending, then I have some oceanfront property in Arizona I would love to sell you. Please get a hold of the show. I'll give you a great price on that. Simply not going to happen. But we can begin. Let's temper our expectations, but let's begin. And that brings me to my final of the 3. Now, there's a million things I want, but these are my big 3. The Department of Justice, the FBI. I cannot put into words how important it is that these institutions be completely cleaned out, 100% cleaned out and disinfected from the communist filth that has taken them over. And that is so critical, because it doesn't matter what else happens. You can't have a free country with a secret state police agency running the justice system. It doesn't work that way. They will simply continue to arrest, assault, abuse, and in some cases kill the American citizens who are viewed as a threat to them. A free country and a secret police agency cannot coexist with each other. The Federal Bureau of Investigation must be removed in its entirety. I don't think that's realistic. Kash Patel is probably not going to take over and shut the building down, although I wish he would, but he had better get in there and start mopping up the filth out of there. And the DOJ works hand in hand, of course, with the FBI. You have a justice system, a Department of Justice that has spent the last few years hunting down school board parents, sticking guns in the faces of pro-lifers, and raiding Donald Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago to rifle through his wife's underwear drawer. All the people who did those things are still there. If they remain there, we will never get to be free. These people, DOJ, FBI, have the power to completely destroy your life. And don't say something naive like, but I'm not a criminal. Oh my gosh, you have no idea what you're dealing with. These people can turn you into a criminal like that. Or in the very least, they'll put you through the ringer when it comes to the legal system, bankrupt you, bankrupt your family. How about selling your home and spending the rest of your days in a tiny one-bedroom apartment with your family of 4 because you had to unload every dime you had on legal fees and you lost your job as well? That's what they have the power to do. We cannot be free while these organizations are allowed to rampage through this society, and they must be stopped. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.